Attention, attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So I apparently on the restart that I was doing, I had my own little mini Y2K bug that just kind of resurfaced and just reset settings to 0 for whatever reason.
And he's still writing 2021 on his checks.
I am. It's true. I'm still writing 1921 on my checks just to be just because all my checks are made out to Lamont Cranston, the Shadow. So random. But anyways, for everybody in the chat room, welcome to the show. Hi, sorry you couldn't hear me, but you can hear Johnny. It's usually the opposite of what we have happening, right?
Yeah,
because usually it's that's usually the opposite
I'm
problem.
out here killing it. No one knows.
Yeah, that's right. And yet now we switched, right? And everyone is saying they enjoy Red Robin as well. However,
good.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, I was like, I'm not going to be alone here.
Yeah, no, of course not. Now, I have seen, it's so funny. It should come as no surprise that the doomsayers, the doom and gloomers, the chicken littles have been habitually, rattling their cage forever. I mean, that's how you get clickbait. It's just, the world's coming to an end. It's going to end. It's always going to end. I've shown the people on my live stream so many YouTube channels that literally for years have been using thumbnails that said, this is the end. From the economy to what COVID's going to, amount to as far as worldwide deaths and that kind of stuff. All of it. That's just nonstop. And there's a thin line between realism and pessimism. And the problem is that nobody bothers to tell the difference. You know what I mean? Because downplaying pessimism sounds like you're being, Pollyanna-ish and also not respecting that some people have real problems. Instead of going, what's the worst thing you can tell people with real problems? A, that those problems will never end. And B, that no one...
worse.
Yeah, right. That yours are worse, right? And that no one will be able to help them with their problem because they're too busy with their terrible problems as well, right? It's just it's a never-ending cycle of this, and it is, it is in the right and left activist class. It is where the horseshoe crosses over. It is where they meet in the middle. That the one thing they can agree on is the end is nigh. It's right around the corner. And I mention this in my stand-up show sometimes if I think the audience needs to hear it. But I'm sorry to start 2022 this way for some folks. I know you're going to be very disappointed. But the world is not going to end. I know you just saw Don't Look Up, and you're convinced that we're all idiots. The world's run by idiots. Everybody's idiots. Nobody cares. It's all spiraling down the toilet because that's all you're seeing. And meanwhile, quietly behind the scenes, these articles that are coming out that I posted recently that even Raw Story couldn't avoid, that the gerrymandering that we've all been very concerned about, and dear God, oh dear God, they're cutting up this. Oh, dear God. The Republicans are gerrymandering. The gerrymandering is going to take away. They're going to sweep of Republican seats. Turns out, according to all the people who actually look at this stuff, not only it may be a wash in general. 1 for 1, it may just even out. And it even looks like Democrats could gain advantage in multiple congressional districts, not the least of which is Lauren Boebert's.
That'd be amazing.
Right. Well,
here's the thing. Stop.
Well, here's the thing. I think she's gross and MTG is gross and the like, but there is a value to making them the face of the Republican Party because, quite frankly, they are.
Yeah.
They simply are. And for me, anyways, watching the kind of the fear gaze at the sky. I mean, did you see Don't Look Up? Have you seen the movie?
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay. It's a loosely knit comedy. There's some high comedy moments mixed with some ultra seriousness, and this is Adam McKay's kind of new thing now, right? This is his stylistic choice. It comes from The Big Short, mixed with Anchorman kind of stuff, and what you get, when you crisscross The Big Short and Anchorman about an end of the world scenario, you get Don't Look Up in a lot of ways, and there is it has a wacky button ending. Like you got to stick around for the post credits scene. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. Julie in our chat says it makes a good point though. It tries to make several points, which some of which are valuable, mainly about how we absorb information these days. And one of the places it misses is that what it looks like is that everybody is too busy being self-involved or trivializing things to be able to handle serious things. And it in no way addresses the opposite as well. The complete ignorance and devaluing of real solutions and real progress. Because literally there's only one other country that launches an attempt to stop the asteroid, what it's about, and it's Russia, and there's just a nuclear explosion or something, and they blow up on the landing pad, and that's it. Which is absurd, because there are dozens of other countries with the technological know-how and ability. You would have them all meeting at the UN. It wouldn't be like the United States unilaterally. That's part of it that required for comedy. They have to narrow the options to a ridiculous point. And in reality, that in and of itself is an affect of our modern social media mentality. The ignoring of solutions and progress.
Right.
In the same way that and there are people who make their living off of it. Not the least of which is right now the Republicans. It's clear that they're all in on running against the existence of the Biden administration, not just policy. That they're all in on Newsmax and all these other sites saying it's an illegitimate presidency. Matt Gaetz and Steve Bannon and all these folks, they all say they call it a regime, for example. They use the phrase regime, which we use for dictatorships in other countries, and it's not an accident. It's a marketing choice for the message that they are selling, and it requires an active ignoring of the reality on the ground. You have to blame Biden for both inflation and supply chain crunches, and which means you have to pretend we didn't just go through a pandemic. You have to look at inflation without incorporating the price of gas and the price of used cars, which make up 64% of the rise in percentage wise of the rise in inflation year over year. You have to ignore that the same gas station, and we've talked about this on the live stream till I'm blue in the face, but Trump was always bringing up the $7.50 gas in California. There's a station that station sold gas for $11.59 in 2019. It's what they do. They're in the middle of nowhere. Right. And so you have to ignore all the normalcy, all the reality of, to carry their message for it. And it's not surprising when they do it. When we do it, when our side does it, that's where you'll find me sort of sheepdogging on Twitter. That's what I call it. When I'm like, not so fast. There's actually some good news. Because if you automatically gainsay any progress, you are no longer an activist. You are someone who has commodified misery for your own financial and, fame well-being to some degree. You've turned it into product. You have made a widget out of misery and poverty and inequality and racism and all these things. You turn that into a canned soda that you sell for a living, and if it ever goes out of style, you just rebrand it and make sure it's always around. And it is, when the Republicans do it, because they're the opposition in this, it should not surprise anybody that they are running they're jacking up and artificially inflating the misery index. But when anybody on our side starts to do it, it undermines the actual progress made. And when you do that, and then you go, I wonder why Biden's numbers are low, or I wonder why people don't feel like the Build Back Better plan on a national level, while they're 60% of Americans are for the content of it. If you dig down into the numbers, there only 40% are very much for it or for it in general. The support for it lightens up incredibly. And that comes from this perception, especially, that it'll never be enough. That there's no pleasing these people. Right. That's just what Jesus said, sir. If anybody knows Life of Brian.
Of course.
And therefore, it is crucial, considering how much ground Trump gained with his own people by crowing from the rooftops every artificial success he had, every ridiculous claim, that we have a responsibility to support and affirm the gains made, even as we push for further gains that we know are valuable. And I feel like that's the lesson for 2022. Is regaining a sense of pride and accomplishment, and owning the accomplishments, hook, line, and sinker, warts and all, because nobody gets everything they want in life, and the expectation that you will is childish. It's infantile, and it's also dismissive of other human beings. So even if your goal is completely respectable from across the board, a nonpartisan issue, your tactic to get there may not be. We may have a shared goal, but a different tactic on how best to achieve said thing. And there's a genuine belief in some instances that while we share the same goal, if your tactic is one way, it may actually set us back in a way that you may not be aware, because you wear blinders, because we both have the same goal and you are laser focused on a particular goal. And that's why debate is good. That's why democracy is the best form of government, because you do have people coming together. That's why we are Democrats. And so it is incredibly important that we learn to sort of shrug off the sort of self-pity of the last couple of decades that's become the methodology, and that the end is near is the best way to motivate people, because it isn't. I got news for you. All the talk about climate change only is currently is only preaching to the choir. Right. Anybody we have to convince is not convinced by our conversation, and the rest of us are already doing everything we can. So there's got to be a new way to show the progress in air quality, water quality, soil quality, safety. Look at shoring up cities like Miami against the encroaching seas, whether or not the locals or DeSantis believe that it's caused by human introduction of CO2 and methane into the atmosphere is immaterial, because those people will drown whether they believe it or not. Those houses will be ruined whether these folks believe it or not. And so we have a responsibility to make that progress forward, even if they're not on board as to the why. Because you want to save lives? Do you want to move things forward? Or do you just want to be right with your arms crossed as the asteroid hits the Earth? because that's one of the other lessons of it. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Also, by the way, Happy New Year, everybody at CPT. To our family there, you guys, we love you. Thank you for another great year. I've missed you. We'll be back right after this.